Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to McAdee's Entertainment. I'm your host as always, Adam McGahee. By now you guys probably know me as the Marvel Zombies guy here on YouTube, and I'm just gonna roll with it. You guys love this content and I'm just gonna keep putting it out there. Gotta do it for the homies. A while ago we were covering the side story from the Venom War storyline, which involved a zombie-like virus infecting the symbiotes, thus resulting in basically the Marvel Venom Zombies virus. Trust me, it's just as ridiculous as it sounds, and it's awesome. Now, I was covering things issue by issue, but now the whole story's done, and in typical McAdee's fashion, I've now put them in one giant movie for you guys to enjoy. Before we hop into that though, as always, I wanted to let you guys know that our superhero training program is live. If you're ready to get your confidence back and finally get in the superhero shape you've always dreamed of, you can contact me in the consultation form in the video description and the pinned comment below. We can hop on a call and discuss your fitness goals and nerd out about comics. But what's not there to love? Enough about that though, let's get on with what you came here for, and that is the full gory story of the time the Marvel Zombies virus infected the symbiotes. The story begins where we see a Roxxon security truck parked outside of a New York convenience store, where the driver nervously awaits his coworker as he receives radio reports of mysterious web-slinging monsters going throughout the city, eating anybody in their path. Wondering what was taking so long, the man was met with a sudden sound which startled him, which just ended up being his partner Dougie with a handful of snacks, who wondered why the man was so jumpy. The man who we come to discover was named Mac, then justified his fear by informing Dougie that this reported outbreak was getting quite serious, having apparently even spread to the city morgues, causing the dead to rise again. Thinking his friend was worrying too much over this apparent zombie invasion, Dougie accidentally dropped a bag of candy and told Mac that even if there was an invasion, they lived in the most superhero-populated city on the planet, and they surely would be protected. Retrieving his bag of chocolate, Mac looked up at the city skyline and saw the silhouette of what appeared to be Spider-Man swinging through the night. Taking this as confirmation of his advice from before, Dougie reassured Mac that he had nothing to worry about, only for a powerful force to instantly pounce upon the man from the skies above. Shocked at what he just witnessed, Mac stepped out of the truck to see just what happened to his friend, only to see the horrified Dougie pleading at his partner to drive away while he was consumed by a terrifying, zombified, venom-like creature. We would then see that the rumors of this outbreak were more than true, where we see the still living She-Hulk and Hellcat battling hordes in the city streets, with Hellcat affectionately calling these apparent zombie-symbiote hybrids Zombiotes, only for She-Hulk to think that name was terrible as she whipped a dude right in the head with a tire. Having limited contact with the Avengers, Jennifer informed the woman to take caution, for even the slightest bite could cause even the most powerful heroes to become infected. During this battle, we would see one of the Venom zombies approach a pair of children, only to be met by their teacher, telling the monster to stand down. Despite this noble effort, the teacher was powerless against the zombie, where it soon fed on him, infecting him with the virus. Taking out the zombie who just infected the man, Hellcat, not exactly having the best superhero bedside manner, told the children that their teacher was gone, where she was scolded by She-Hulk on this, only for the woman to retort that these children needed to learn fast that this world was a dark place. With She-Hulk wondering just how to stop these coming hordes, Hellcat opted for a more permanent solution. Approaching the freshly infected school teacher, Hellcat took a page out of Mortal Kombat's book, where she then used her strength to tear the man's head right off his body. proceeding to use the zombified teacher's cranium to then unmercifully beat down the other undead around her. Hellcat's brutal rampage was then promptly stopped by She-Hulk, who scolded the woman, telling her that at the end of the day, these were still people who could be saved. Before she could continue her virtuous speech, Jennifer perhaps then realized that Hellcat was right, and that things were truly hopeless, as she witnessed Hellcat soon be overpowered by the hordes, where they proceeded to feed on her. On the other side of the city, we see this world Shocker, unaware of the current outbreak, currently scoping out his next heist. He is then joined by his fellow super criminals Speed Demon and Overdrive, where Overdrive, seemingly having the most sense out of the men, thought that there was a lot more sirens than normal, and suggested that maybe a robbery right now wasn't the best idea. Shocker, being Shocker, was all about getting the bag, and then leapt to the streets, saying that it was a simple job, and they would be in and out. Man, I never knew this dude was black until today, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Setting their sights on the prize, the men turned their gaze onto the armored truck from earlier in this story, not realizing the horrific fate it had encountered. Shocker then did what he did best by shocking the barreling vehicle, sending it hurtling to its side. Going in to check on the drivers, Overdrive questioned the mysterious black substance covering the car, where he was soon met by the zombified symbiote drivers, who were delighted to sink their teeth into their first meal. Seeing his comrade get completely mauled by space zombies, Speed Demon asked Shocker if he too was seeing this, where the man apathetically replied, saying yes, and that he could care less and saw it as a minor inconvenience, and all that mattered was his payday. Yeah, coming back to Shocker being a brother, definitely a bad thing. We don't speak for you, Herman. Having the most common sense out of any man I've seen in a horror film, Speed Demon said that no payday was worth this, and went to dash off, only to be grabbed by one of the zombies' tendrils, where it then pulled the man towards him and sunk his teeth right into his neck, infecting him as well. Reaching for what appeared to be a small casket of some kind, Shocker went to make his escape, where we see that Overdrive was indeed still alive and fighting off his attackers, where he'd leap atop the getaway car. As Shocker sped down the streets, Overdrive, hanging atop the roof for dear life, asked the man to let him in, where of course the villain would refuse. Accepting that this guy was just going to be a jerk about it, Overdrive encouraged him to drive a bit faster though, as they were now being pursued by the fully zombified and venomized Speed Demon. Knowing he did not have much of a choice, Shocker then cut a deal with Overdrive that he would let him in if he used his powers to make this rust bucket go faster. Happily obliging, we are then taken to a pretty awesome looking next set of panels where Overdrive would do just that by kinetically charging the vehicle, sending it hurtling down the streets at superhuman speeds. Overjoyed to have outran his pursuer, Shocker mocked Speed Demon, only to hit a pretty gnarly bump, causing the vehicle to come to a complete stop. Oh god, please don't tell me Overdrive didn't just fall off and get run over. I was really starting to like that guy. Luckily, this bump was not Overdrive, and was just our unfazed buff green muscle mommy She-Hulk, who thanked the guys for the soft landing. Seeing this job is completely cursed, Shocker says that this is what he got for knocking off a group of necromancers, which leads me to realize he may have a much bigger involvement with this outbreak than we all realized. Overdrive, having much better manners, asked the woman if she was alright, where Shocker was much more concerned about his wrecked car, and threatened She-Hulk if she had damaged anything within the mysterious casket that he retrieved from the robbery site. Shocker, I mean, come on bro, you get dogged by Spider-Man regularly. What are you going to do against a literal Hulk? Before they could collect themselves, The group realized they had much bigger fish to fry, where they were met by the now zombified Hellcat and Speed Demon, leading an entire zombie symbiote army racing behind them. The next issue begins where we see She-Hulk engage a group of zombified symbiotes who attempted to feed upon a group of horrified children. Dashing away, the hysterical youths thought maybe just for a moment they were safe, only to be grabbed by yet another swarm of rotting zombies who were all too happy to turn them into their next meal. Having enough holding back, a quick-acting Jennifer then used her strength to punch one of the creature's heads off, saving the young girl, who was all too delighted to see the Avenger come to her rescue. The boy was then promptly saved by quick-acting Overdrive, who, despite being a villain, clearly was no monster and was not about to let some kid get got. Even good old Shocker got in on the fun, where he proceeded to cave one of the undead's heads right in with the mysterious coffin-like box he had stolen from the armored car in the previous episode. During the commotion, Herman made his way to the wrecked vehicle from before, where he was rather hyped to see that his trunk still worked. Having no clue just what the guy was doing, Overdrive argued with Shocker, telling him that protecting these children was way more important than what was in there, where the man had to disagree. Things would quickly go from bad to worse, where Shocker witnessed the zombified Venom Speed Demon overpower Overdrive, where the man pleaded with Herman to save him. Actually having a heart for once, a rather impatient Shocker then blasted the zombie off his teammate, angrily demanding just for a moment's rest so he could finish his mission. Thanking the man for the assist, She-Hulk told the team that they needed to get these kids to safety, where Shocker straight up told her good luck with that, where he went back to exploring all of this mysterious junk he had in the trunk. Fighting off more swarms of the seemingly never-ending hordes, She-Hulk was then attacked by her fellow infected Super Hellcat, who stopped at nothing to turn her as well. Knowing she was not in control of her actions, Jennifer tossed the girl into a nearby car, where she then used her otherworldly strength to grab the door and then wrapped it around Patsy to prevent her from harming herself or others around her. Seeing more of New York's finest literally climbing out of buildings toward them, Overdrive asked Shocker just what they were going to do, where he then saw the man had retrieved what appeared to be a body bag of some kind, where he proceeded to run for his life with it. Baffled as to what exactly was going on, Overdrive came to his senses when he saw the street the Shocker was going towards, claiming that this was actually genius and possibly the safest place in the city where they could go, for this was the infamous supervillain hideout, the bar with no name. We are then taken to this bar, where we see its owner, Priscilla, cleaning tables and hanging out with her dog Sparky, seemingly unaware of the undead invasion that was going on outside. She would then hear the doors burst open, where she'd be greeted by possibly the most random sight even someone like her would have witnessed, where she saw She-Hulk holding a zombie, Shocker holding a body bag, all while escorting two horrified and sweaty kids. Honestly, probably not even the wildest thing to walk into a New York City bar. I'm sure my New Yorkers watching this can vouch for that. Telling She-Hulk that Avengers were not allowed in this bar, Overdrive then told Priscilla that they kinda had bigger fish to fry right now, as the undead unrelentingly tried to make their way inside. Correcting the man that her name was Hilda, she then pressed a button underneath the table, which activated a series of metal doors and windows that sealed every opening around the building, locking the undead out, at least for now. With Overdrive wondering if these doors would be enough to hold the rotting aliens, Shocker then informs him that they were perfectly safe, for not even the strength of someone like She-Hulk would be enough to pierce them. With Jennifer confirming this as fact, she would then set the infected Hellcat down, where she would make a disturbing discovery. During her battle with the woman, She-Hulk somehow managed to get scratched where she noticed a large cut on her hand. With Overdrive wondering just how this was even possible, we discovered that Hellcat was much more powerful than we all realized, with her claws being sharp enough to cut the flesh of even Hulks. Comforting the team they had nothing to worry about, Jennifer told them that her superhuman healing factor would keep her immune, where she then asked Hilda to get some snacks and sodas for the terrified kids so they could finally have a moment to relax. Walking over to Shocker, we would see the man once again bring out this mysterious coffin box where he made his way to the body bag. With Jennifer demanding to know what was going on, Overdrive, also thinking this was weird even for Herman, asked him who was in this bag, with the man snidely remarking, saying that it was nobody important. Absolutely not believing the man for 1 second, Jennifer then reached into this box where she pulled out a mysterious amulet-like device, where Herman immediately snatched it back, saying that it didn't belong to her. He then placed this weird amulet atop the corpse, where the two supers questioned just what in the world could be happening. As the pair witnessed Shocker do his weird voodoo science experiment, we would see Hilda's dog Sparky approach the restrained zombie Hellcat, where we would see the infected woman was still capable of some forms of speech, where she excitedly groaned the word, "puppy," upon seeing it. This is kinda creepy, but I think most of us can agree this is all of our collective responses whenever we see a cute dog. However, instead of reaching out to pet the poor pup, Hellcat used her venomized tongue to lash out and grab the animal, where she proceeded to feed upon it. Things then cut back to Shocker, where we see the man quickly become frustrated, wondering just why his experiment wasn't working. At his wit's end, Herman finally decided to reveal just what he was up to, as we come to realize he was involved with a group called the League of Necromancers, a team of magic wielders who specialized in talking to the dead. We then see that Shocker had lost someone dear to him some time ago, and the League had instructed him to steal this device, which we now come to know was called the Resurrection Stone, which could allegedly bring the dead back to life. Angrily slamming the stone to the floor, Shocker deemed it useless, where Overdrive, seemingly having the most common sense out of everybody, told the man to calm down first and explain just who he was trying to revive so they could hopefully aid in this situation. We then see Hilda prepare to give the kids a drink, only to see that the soda fountain was not working, for it was covered in a very familiar black goo, where she then heard the growling of Sparky from underneath the table. Instantly, the woman would be attacked by the now venomized zombie dog, where it would sink its teeth into her neck, infecting her as well. Hearing the commotion, the heroes would rush to the scene, only to witness the venomized Hilda, who immediately attacked them, leading to a horrifying bar brawl, where she stopped at nothing to infect our survivors. Even the kids joined in by spraying the zombie Sparky with soda to keep him at bay. God, these two are going to need so much therapy if they survive this. As She-Hulk and Overdrive dealt with the infected Hilda, we see Shocker walk away, believing his mission to be an utter failure. Pouring himself a drink, the pieces would come together on just who was inside the body bag, as we see the man look at a photograph on the wall, a photo of himself and the supervillain Boomerang, his former team member who was killed some time ago. As we see this once thought heartless villain mourn the life of his friend that he tried to return, we see that poor Herman may have just had his monkey paw wish granted, as we see the bag begin to unzip itself. Seeing a figure in the corner of his eye, Shocker would be met with the horrific sight of the now revived and rotted undead corpse of Boomerang, who was overjoyed to have his long-lost friend for dinner. The final issue opens in the past, where we see Shocker reminisce on when times were simpler. Back when he'd rob a bank and be stopped by the likes of Spider-Man, and would do the occasional team-up with his fellow villains such as Boomerang for larger heists. Back when life was good. However, these good times would not last long, as some time ago, poor Boomerang had died giving his life to save Spider-Man of all people, a loss that would resonate with Herman for the rest of his life. As we come to the present, we see things had gotten even darker as we see Shocker being attacked by the resurrected, undead, symbiote-infected corpse of Boomerang, who is all too happy to turn his former friend into his next meal. Fighting tooth and nail for his very life, Herman grabbed the nearby resurrection stone that he used to bring his friend back to life, where he then smashed it right into the zombie's head, cursing himself and the necromancers who gave it to him. For how could he be so foolish into believing he could bring his friend back from the dead? As Shocker dealt with his zombie BFF, we see poor Overdrive literally had his hands full as he was being choked to death by the zombio-infected bar with no-name owner Hilda, where he was saved just in the nick of time by a quick-acting She-Hulk. While the gang had human zombies to deal with, even the survivor children who were saved by the heroes had their own dilemmas as they were cornered by Hilda's infected dog. This is honestly horrifying. Since the OG days of Resident Evil kinda scarred me as a kid, I've always high-key thought zombie dogs were scarier than actual zombies. No lie, it was because of Resident Evil that I had an irrational fear of Dobermans for a very long time. Even 31-year-old me still kinda don't trust them when I see one. Not about to let these kids get turned into Scooby snacks, a quick-acting Overdrive then used his powers to kinetically charge the nearby cash register, where he sent it flying into the mutt, electrocuting it and taking it out of action. Looking for a way out, Shocker carefully made his way past the restrained and infected Hellcat, where he mocked the former hero, where he heard a dreaded crack, which ended up being the sound of the zombie woman dislocating her own shoulder. With her now freed hand, she then used her symbiotic webs to grab the man by the ankles, slamming him to the ground, where the starving super then pulled him towards her, ready to claim her dinner. To make matters worse, Herman was then grabbed by the wrist, where he looked up and was met by the distorted face of the undead Boomerang. However, instead of immediately chomping into the man, Boomerang, with a low, monstrous voice, uttered Herman's name. Absolutely perplexed by this, Shocker asked if his long-dead friend was still in there, however soon found his own body in a hellish game of tug-of-war between the two infected. Asking the heroes for an assist, She-Hulk, still fighting off Hilda, remarked that of course now Shocker would want to be part of the team, where she then did what Hulks do best by clapping her hands together, emitting an extremely powerful sound wave that sent everyone in the bar to come slamming into the walls. The wave was so powerful that it completely knocked the symbiotes right out of the bodies of Hilda and Hellcat, instantly curing them. Unfortunately, we would see the woman's assault was not 100% effective, as we see Boomerang was still very much infected, where he managed to grab hold of Shocker, sinking his teeth into the man, infecting him as well. Horrified that she actually looked like this for a hot minute, Hellcat engaged the zombies and asked She-Hulk for another round of applause, where we see things take a dark twist, as we see that She-Hulk had suddenly become woozy from this attack, where she admitted that she wasn't feeling too well. She then looked upon the cut on her hand that still hadn't healed after being scratched by Hellcat when she was infected. In the very next panel, we see the dark tendrils of a symbiote emerge from the wound, where we see Jennifer fully succumb to the virus, becoming an infected herself. Absolutely horrified that they had a big green slimy zombie muscle mommy on the loose, Overdrive thought they were done for. That is until Hilda revealed that she too had some tricks up her sleeve. Noting that these aliens were weak to sound waves, Hilda cranked up the bar's pimped out subwoofers to over 100, blasting super loud Elvis music in an attempt to cure and put a stop to things. However, we would see that not even the power of Elvis was enough, as we see the zombies still press their way through to infect our heroes. God, why couldn't that be me in this panel? Seeing that this musical cocktail needed a bit more spice, Overdrive then turned things up a notch by using his powers to charge the speaker's sound waves to superhuman levels, instantly melting the symbiotes off every infected member in the room. As the hundreds of infected New Yorkers still attempted to claw their way inside, we see Shocker, awakened by Hilda's dog, complaining that he was now basically deaf after Overdrive's attack. He would be relieved, however, to see that everyone was safe. This nightmare, at least for now, was over. Herman would then feel a tap on his shoulder, where he'd be initially annoyed, where his eyes would then immediately be filled with tears of happiness as he was met by the now fully cured Boomerang. In disbelief that his mission had actually worked, Shocker embraced his long-lost friend, overjoyed to have found a light in this time of darkness. After their brief hug, the men went back to business as usual by calling each other losers and jerks. You know, as true Sigma should. The group then wondered how they were going to get out of this place, as there were likely thousands of infected outside. Boomerang then wondered just how they got this far without him, where he proposed Overdrive to charge Shocker's gauntlets, turning them into sonic-powered symbiote-killing machines. Admitting this was a good idea, Shocker had Overdrive do just that, but internally revealed it was only to appease his big dumb friend, as it really didn't do anything. Knowing they had no other way out than going through the front door, this unlikely band of heroes and villains united forces against the growing undead hordes, leaving their fate all very much in question.